Okay, so today we're going to see what is the overview and the types of GRE questions that you can expect in your exam. So this is just to give you a brief comprehension as to what you can expect and the number of questions that you can expect in the exam. So let's check out. So what are the types of questions in the verbal section? You will have text completion question types, you will have reading comprehension question types, you will have logical based reading comprehension question types, and finally you'll be having the sentence equivalence question types. So depending on the type of questions, you will have to figure out as to how much time you're going to spend on that particular question. Always keep in mind that you're going to answer 20 questions and you have just 30 minutes in your hand. And each and every question is important for your final grade marks. So let's move on. So what are the question types tested on the logical based reading comprehension type questions? Let's find out. So logical based reasoning is one of the question types found in the GRE verbal section. All questions contain a prompt, usually like 100 words or fewer, that presents some sort of argument which is followed by a question stem and 5 answer choices. The questions revolve around a logical analysis of the core argument and might involve strengthening it, weakening it, finding its underlying assumptions, etc. You will find around 3 to 4 questions in the GRE verbal section. That's what the frequency is. Logical reasoning is also one of the most important skills in today's world. Why? Whether it is to decide if one strategy is better than another, or what motivates your customers to continue buying from you, or to understand what concerns your company's investors, or to make effective sales pitches, well-presented and logical argument is the bedrock of a successful organization. So you can understand how important or how critical this particular section is for the examiners. So what are the things that we can expect in this particular section? An effective strategist has to be skilled at deciding, first and foremost, how would I strengthen or weaken this argument? What is the assumption of this argument? What further evidence would I need to evaluate this argument? Arguments are very important in business, and the skill of evaluating arguments is one that every officer should cultivate. Moving on. There are 8 categories of logical based reading comprehension type questions that you can expect. The 8 broad categories of logical based reading comprehension questions are: first and foremost, weaken the argument or find the flaw in the argument. Second type, strengthen the argument. Third type, find the assumption. The fourth type, draw inference or conclusion. And the fifth type, structure of the argument, including bold-faced structure questions and dialogue structure questions, paradox, evaluate the conclusion, and complete the argument. So what are the question types tested on the text completion type questions? So this is the second part. Let's find out. So as mentioned, skilled readers do not simply absorb the information presented on the page. Instead, they maintain a constant attitude of interpretation and evaluation, reasoning from what they have read so far to create a picture of the whole and revising that picture as they go. Text completion questions test this ability by omitting crucial words from short passages and asking the test taker to use the remaining information in the passage as a basis for selecting words or short phrases to fill the blanks and create a coherent, meaningful whole. In a GRE exam, you can expect at least 6 questions from this particular section, consisting of at least 1, 2, or 3 words missing from the short passage provided. So this, I would say, is relatively a easier section and I would expect you to maximize in this particular section. That is, you should expect yourself to get all the questions right in this particular section. So the GRE verbal text completion concepts and what their frequency is. So passages basically compose of 1 to 5 sentences, expecting 1 to 3 blanks. So probably like 2 questions with 2 single blanks, 2 questions with double blanks, and 2 questions with like 3 blanks. That's what the ratio is like. It might change. So 1 to 3 blanks, 3 answer choices per blank, 5 answer choices in the case of a single blank. The answer choices for different blanks function independently. That is, selecting one answer choice for one blank does not affect what answer choices you can select for another blank. That means you have to get all the blanks right to get your credit points. Single correct answer consisting of one choice for each blank. No credit for partially correct answers. So you need to get all the 3 blanks right to get 1 credit. You won't be getting any partial credit. Moving on. So now we come to the reading comprehension type questions, and there is the third section that we are talking about right now. So what are the question types tested on the reading comprehension type questions? Let's find out. Gain the ability to understand and analyze the information in the sentences you read using only words and phrases. Simple drills will help you learn high-yield strategies like paraphrasing, chunking, and compression, while hard puzzles will help you master new grammar structures like idioms, tenses, and prepositions. Your GRE verbal score can skyrocket with our highly effective practice materials that cover every question type in detail. Need to score higher than your colleagues or friends in the exams? It's not a secret that the GRE verbal section is the toughest section in GRE. It's known as the killer sectional test because it will decide your fate whether you're going to get into a top university or not. If you are up for the challenge, we can help you score high and get in-demand jobs. The better university you go, obviously the higher the value of the degree is, and obviously that will lead you to a better job. We will prepare you with all the tips and tricks needed to score well in GRE reading comprehension section. So what can you expect in the GRE reading comprehension section? Here are the 5 most common types of reading comprehension questions on GRE. First and foremost is inference. Identify information that is implied in the passage but not directly stated. Detail. Identify information that is directly stated in the passage. Primary purpose. Identify the main purpose the whole passage serves. Organization and function. Identify the purpose of a smaller part of the passage, or identify the way that the whole passage or parts of it are organized. Analyze the argument. Analyze the strength of an argument made in the passage. So in this particular section, you can expect at least 3 passages with at least 6 to 8 questions from the passages. So it's distributed amongst the 3 passages. In one you might get 3 questions, in the other you might get another 3, and in the other you might just get 3 to 4. So it all depends on how the examiner has structured the exam. Moving on to the next section. So what are the question types tested on the sentence equivalence type questions? Let's find out. So sentence equivalence type questions, what do they consist of? Like test completion questions, sentence equivalence questions test the ability to reach a conclusion about how a passage should be completed on the basis of partial information, but to a greater extent they focus on the meaning of completed whole. Sentence equivalence questions consist of a single sentence with just one blank, and they just ask you to find 2 choices that both lead to a complete coherent sentence and that produce sentences that mean the same thing. So talking about the question structure, what does it consist of? It might be a single sentence, one blank, and a 6 answer choices. So it requires you to select 2 of the answer choices, no credit for partially correct answers. That means you have to get both the answers correct to get your credit point. So these questions are marked with square boxes beside the answer choices, not as the regular ones like circles or ovals. Moving on. So how to answer sentence equivalence type questions? So what are the tips for answering the questions correctly? Do not simply look among the answer choices for 2 words that mean the same thing. Why? Because this can be misleading for 2 reasons. First, the answer choices may contain pair of words that mean the same thing but do not fit coherently into the sentence and thus do not constitute a correct answer. Second, the pair of words that do constitute the correct answer may not mean exactly the same thing, since all that matters is that the resultant sentences mean the same thing. Read the sentences to get an overall sense of it. Identify words or phrases that seem particularly significant either because they emphasize the structure of the sentence, words like although or moreover, or because they are central to understanding what the sentence is about. So in the GRE verbal section, you're expected to answer at least 6 questions from this section, but it might vary because you might have 4 to 6 depending on the number of questions that you're getting from the reading comprehension type. Moving on. So now let's get a total overview of our GRE exam, like the verbal section. The GRE verbal section consists of 20 multiple choice questions with 3 to 5 answer choices each, which has to be completed in 30 minutes. You'll encounter 5 GRE verbal question types. What are they? Reading comprehension, logical based reading comprehension, sentence equivalence, and text completion, though each type is further divided into subtypes. So in your final GRE exam, you're expected to complete 2 verbal section types, with the third one being optional. So this basically is a synopsis of the exam that you're going to take and what you can expect, like the number of questions that you can expect from each section. So the order type could be different, but this is just a synopsis of what we can expect. So from the text completion type, we can expect at least 6 questions. From the sentence equivalence types, we can expect like 4 to 6 questions maximum. From the reading comprehension section, we can expect 6 to 8 questions. And from the logical based reading comprehension type, we can expect 2 to 4 questions. Basically, the total number of questions that you're going to get would be 20, and you would have to answer it in 30 minutes. So how you pace yourself in the exam is the critical part of taking the exam. Maybe you know all the answers to the question, but would you be able to complete it in the time given to you? That will decide as to how you're going to score. So probably out of 170, you're expected to score at least over 160 to get into a good graduate school. That is what you should be aiming for. Thank you everyone for your attention, and hope this section would be useful for you in order to comprehend what are the number of questions that you can expect in this particular section. Thank you.